important closing last month and a half, 2 months for us. Obviously, we got a really good Indiana team on Saturday that we just played a few weeks ago. Um, Obviously, got a lot of respect for how they're playing, the way they play. Archie and his staff, I think they've got a really good team this year, and we saw that firsthand when we went to their place a few weeks ago. So we'll need to play well here on Saturday at noon.
You were pretty clear after that game that you said like there were wholesale changes that you can't make, but you guys need to make changes as a team when you played Indiana last time, that you guys were not in a good place at that time. I just wonder how you've seen your team, whatever you decided to do after that point. Where do you think you guys have shown improvement? Where do you think you guys have grown from when you last saw Indiana?
I don't remember specifically saying that or feeling that way, but I'll take your word for it. I think more than anything, I was disappointed with our second half. I think our first half we did some good things, and give them credit too. Give them a lot of credit for they really dictated things. I think I've made some progress in some areas. I think we've been more efficient offensively. Our numbers would back that up. I think defensively we've been more spotty than I would like, not as consistent as I would like for us to be. I think we've gotten a little bit more physical and a little tougher in some areas, but I'd still like to get better in that.
That offensive efficiency that like you said, the numbers show that. Like, to what do you attribute that to? Is it personnel? Are you trying to emphasize things differently, or where do you think you're starting to see some improvement there?
Well, we still have to obviously do a better job taking care of the ball. That's the biggest issue for us right now when it comes to that end. But I think we've shared it pretty well, Adam. We did the other night. There have been times where we've done a good job getting to the free throw line, and we've had a little more variety and diversity to our offense, which has been good. But we've got to keep heading in that direction while being more sure with the ball than what we are.
When you guys as a coaching staff are scouting a team, I know you guys are comprehensive, but then there's a time where once you guys play them, I'm sure there are things about a team that maybe you didn't quite realize on film. Is there anything from the first Indiana game that really stands out that you learned during those 40 minutes?
No, they're a terrific offensive rebounding team because of their size, and not just because of their size. They do a great job pursuing the ball. I think that's probably how big and physical they are was probably the thing going into it that we felt the most, and I think we felt that coming out of it. And they, their guards played well. Green has always played well against us. Finney played very well against us, and I would expect they'll come in, ready to go on Saturday.
And against Northwestern, we obviously saw Justin's shooting ability sort of shine in that game. Is he someone who you think really has a chance right here to carve out a role in your rotation?
I think so, yeah. I think he's just got to keep working. His attitude's got to be great, as it's been. He's got to continue to compete on the defensive end. That's always been the biggest challenge for him, is who's he going to guard and how effective is he going to be guarding it, and can he fight and scrap at the level he needs to. And he's been able to do that. And also he's probably a month in, probably 3 weeks into actually feeling close to 100%.
Justin's defense, like we were just talking about, how much, as you've worked with him on that, has he been pretty willing, the way you like him to be, in terms of improving on that end of the floor?
Yeah, very, very willing. Yeah, some of it's been his health. Some of it's been he's got to be smarter in how he defends and guards and understands angles, and he fouls a little bit too much. Some of that's a process that we started, really working with him last year on, and he just has not had enough live action because of his injury to continue to grow in that area. But we've seen some signs.
It seemed like he was pretty good against Northwestern, or as good maybe as you need him to be.
He was, yeah, he was good. Took good shots and defended. Defended well. They're obviously a little bit different in terms of kind of how they do things and their personnel, but had good attention to detail in that game.
Since DJ had, 7 turnovers last time we played Indiana, I think he's almost 2 to 1, maybe even a little better than that, assisted turnovers since that game, the last 4. What do you see differently for him? Is it just experience? I don't know if obviously you're working on it, but just how have you seen him grow in those areas since then?
Game slowing down for him, I think, in a lot of ways, as it does. I think he's understanding more of what you can and can't do at this level, which is always going to be a learning process. We've not always had him initiating offense, which takes a little bit of load off him. We've tried to do some things where he's not always initiating it, so he's not initiating it and potentially getting it back. But I think more than anything, it's kind of slowed down for him.
Coach, I was wondering if where you found your team in the Big Ten standings, did that make it easier or tougher to block that out, maybe not pay attention to it, focus on the task at hand?
For me or for our team or both, or
Maybe for both.
yeah. I don't know how much they pay attention to all that. I think it's hard not to know it if you're involved in any type of media at all. You're gonna you're gonna see it. So I think it's the reality. I think guys have understood that. They also understand it's a 20-game season, and our only focus right now has to be in the moment and improving and getting better. That's really the message that we've tried to send over and over, that it's really only about the day in front of us, and it's not about what's happened. We would love to have a couple things back, and the Wisconsin or Minnesota game, not going to happen. We've got to move on and really focus on how do we improve.
Also about your roster, I remember you saying this early on in the season that the starting lineup was going to be fluid, and you've had different rotations that you've tried now. Are these jobs day to day with practice time? Are starting roles still potentially earned right now at this point in the season?
Sure. I think that's still a work in progress. Some of that has been a byproduct of injuries, illness. We've had more of that than we've ever had. So I think some of that's been a byproduct of just guys, illness, injury that has maybe not allow us to have as much continuity on that end as we'd like.
Would you look at this long layoff here? I think this is the first time you haven't had a midweek game in quite some time. Positive or negative, seeing as how you just looked pretty good against Northwestern?
I probably would have liked to have played right away again. To be honest with you, I think anytime you feel like you're taking a little bit of a step forward in some areas, you'd like to carry that momentum and play as immediately as possible. But we've got a couple guys dealing with some illness and some things, but hopefully we can have a couple good days of practice.
Just like to review the turnover thing. Like, obviously, there's no such thing as a good turnover, but like, when you're going back and you're watching film, when you've got somebody like DJ who is as aggressive as he is, and Caleb has the ball in his hands a lot, and CJ as well, like, are you? I'm not gonna say okay with certain turnovers, but like, do you like kind of gauge how you like would view some, like, one's a bonehead just mistake versus like a guy is just being aggressive and it just didn't work out in his favor?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a clear distinction in our mind on what those turnovers are, and when we run for them collectively and individually, there's a clear distinction. They know the turnovers that we take issue with, and the turnovers that you're gonna live with.
So the problem, like, obviously the aggressive ones happen. Do you feel like it's just too many of the other ones?
Yeah, for sure. And the way our offense is there are multiple people touch it, so there's multiple opportunities for turning it over. There are some places that play where one guy has it in the hands 85% of the time. I don't think our personnel is set up that way yet, and that's not the direction we've chose to go in. So it makes more guys have to understand value in the ball is really important.
Coach, we haven't spoken with you since the passing of Kobe Bryant, and something that stood out to me about him was how he always tried to uplift the women's game. And I've noticed people who have been in the sport and coach and play always seem to be more pro women's basketball than maybe people who aren't. Just wondering how that kind of message resonates with you.
Specific to the women's game?
Yeah, just the promotion of the women's game.
Yeah, no, I think it's, and I noticed the same thing, and I'm sure that had to do with the fact that he had daughters that sounded like, one of them was going to be a WNBA player. So I took great admiration and respect for that because the women's game is different than ours, but when you look at it, it can be you're amazed at the level of athleticism in the games at the highest level, and I really respected the stance he took on that. It was obviously a tragic event that our players I think continue to work through.
You mentioned health things and just kind of having obviously Luther was dealing with some stuff, and how is he doing, and what is the health of the team going into Sunday or Saturday?
We need to get healthy these next couple of days. We've got some guys that are dealing with some things, and I don't want to get to specifics, but yeah, it's an important couple days of getting healthy here.
And how did Musa come through his surgery? How is he coming?
Yeah, surgery went well. Him and Justice both had surgery, successful surgery. They'll be back for most of the full summer. Yeah, that's good.
With Musa, I know he's had a couple of different ankle things over the years. Are they all related? And does this procedure hopefully clean up all of them, or were they all related?
I think a lot of them were related, which is why they're kind of going in his ankle and cleaning it up and doing some reconstructive stuff. I think, he probably could have tried to go this year, but it just wasn't going to be strong enough or healthy enough for him to feel confident enough to do that.
Chris, I think there's a bit of a wrong perception about among your fan base mostly, about what you guys do offensively sometimes when Caleb has the ball on the perimeter, and that it's coming from the place of just he wants to help himself get to the NBA, and it's not for the betterment of your offense, even though I think obviously it is. I'm just wondering what you feel like you've gotten out of those moments when you have inverted things a little bit, and I don't know if you've made an effort to try to do it more or not the last few games, but how do you think it's worked for you so far? And I don't, would you want to address the idea that it's coming from the place of helping one individual rather than helping the entire team?
Yeah, I don't. As I've said, I don't think that is. That's certainly not been his motivation, and I don't agree with that. I don't. Lord knows, I love our fans, and 90% of them are really, really. I think have a real understanding of things. I'm sure there's a segment, as in every fan base, that takes things to the extreme. I think with his particular situation, I think he's shooting 40% from three. The shot he had late against Minnesota was a wide open three that he's going to make a lot. He's made 40% of three in league play, out of league play. It's not like he's taken one a game. The reality is in college basketball, posting the ball is a good thing. Living off post-ups for 40 minutes is generally inefficient for 40 minutes. It's too physical in there. We've had this conversation. So Caleb's strengths, I think, are more than just that. He needs to get better at finishing two-point field goals. We're working with him on that. That's probably offensively, that and his turnovers are his biggest area of weakness right now. But he's a very willing passer. He has the ability to make 3 or 4 threes in a game, which threatens the defense. And if you saw late what happened in the Minnesota game, for example, we had a terrific high-low execution with Kyle Young that got us a layup because of him pulling a pretty good shot blocker away from the rim. So, he's doing what our team needs him to do to win. Obviously, he's got to improve in some areas in terms of finishing, but he's doing what our team asked him to do and needs him to do.
And I guess along those lines, as you've seen Kyle get stronger and just healthier back from his surgery, do you anticipate doing that a little more? I don't know. Caleb outside and Kyle down low?
Yeah, it'll vary from game to game, but we do. Yeah. Short answer, yes.
The first time you played Indiana, and I apologize, I had to step out for a second. Hope this wasn't already asked, but when you played them, you guys did a pretty good job with Jackson Davis and Smith. They didn't hurt you that bad. It was their perimeter guys who kind of pulled them through in that game. Just what's your thought defensively about how you guys maybe played in that game and how it may look on Saturday?
I thought we played well in stretches. Give them credit. They made some shots. Green really made a tough three there to give them momentum, and Finney made 4 threes, I believe, in that game, 3 in the first half. You know, they've got a diverse attack. They've got great interior size. They get to the free throw line better than anybody in our league, and a lot of that is through their bigs. So, you know, I think that I would expect – I think Jackson Davis was in a little bit of foul trouble, which limited his effectiveness, but he's a terrific player, and I know we'll get their best, he and Brunk and Smith, and they're all their bigs.
And just, if I could, just real quick, Justin, it seemed like he had some appearances where he'd go in for a minute or two and come right back out and maybe miss a three. Seems in the last few games you've left him in there for a 4-minute stretch. His teammates have found him eventually. He's gotten in rhythm. He's hit a couple. Is that important to let a guy get the feel of the game and let him get into a flow? And in the second half, I mean, back-to-back, I think, are pretty close to one another. They found him and cashed it. I mean, how important is that offense?
Yeah, no, I think we need that. And I think the threat that he provides, it's his attention to detail defensively is the biggest thing that's probably held him back at times. But he's been really locked in these last 2 or 3 weeks. And we know he has the ability to shoot the ball. And, we continue to stress, be aggressive, and take good ones, and he's done that.
Justin, starting with you, that was obviously a pretty big game for you the other night. Coach Holtman said a couple days before that you'd been practicing really well and you'd been building up a little bit of confidence. Where are you? Last time we talked to you, you were still coming back from the injury and stuff. Where are you right now as far as getting back to the player that you were pre-injury?
Yeah, I've been feeling really good, honestly. This is the healthiest I've felt in months. You know, it's been like a 8-month process, so, you know, I'm just happy to be able to play, you know, every day and, you know, maintain a healthy status from where I was. And, you know, it feels good. Get my confidence back. My shot feels a lot better. I've gotten some strength back, so, you know, I feel good out there.
What did it feel like then to have a game like that where you see some shots go down and to play an important role in a win like that?
Oh, yeah, it felt good. You know, my teammates did a great job of finding me. You know, the way Northwestern plays defense, you know, they gap up a lot and help off, so I knew I was going to get a lot of open looks. You know, my teammates found me, and I made them.
Justin, how long have you been feeling pretty good?
I would say the past 2 weeks probably. I noticed, you know, my speed's getting back to normal pretty much, and, you know, my vertical's back pretty much to where it was, so I'm just going to try to keep building off of this.
I think Coach was talking a little bit, too, about the way you defended when you were on the floor against Northwestern. Just how much do you think you developed in that area? You seem like you did, you know, acquit yourself pretty well in that game.
I felt good out there, honestly. I felt really comfortable on the floor. I was in my gaps. You know, I watched film. I rewatched the game after we played, and, you know, I felt like I was pretty locked in on my attention to detail on defense. You know, I felt good out there. You know, being in my gaps, being in the help side, you know, making the right rotations and stuff. I had a couple goof ups. You know, I remember a ball screen I didn't switch when Dwayne was talking to me, but, you know, that'll happen sometimes here and there.
And for both you guys, you've had almost a week, not off, obviously, but to sort of just, like, focus on yourselves a little bit. Like, how has that been to have nearly a full week to, I don't know, figure out some things about where the team's going?
It's just a lot of film. We got to watch a lot of easy mistakes that we've made, a lot of points that we left off the board just off of easy mistakes. And it's just focusing on ourselves and how we can help improve our game and how that's going to help add on to the team.
Where do you think you guys have grown since the Indiana game? After that game, Coach Holtman was pretty honest. He said he thought that, you know, there's a lot of changes that need to be made. You've had some wins, you've had some losses since then. Where do you think this team is different since when you last played Indiana?
You know, I think that helped put into perspective how hard the Big Ten is. You know, you got to bring it every game. I feel like we definitely gotten a lot tougher, and we're playing, you know, smarter than what we were. Obviously, we're not where we need to be yet, but I feel like we're taking steps in the right direction.
EJ, what do you think?
I feel like we've all just been picking up on the little stuff. Like throughout the game, it's a lot of points that we leave off the board, like not grabbing the offensive rebound, not being in your gap where you should have been in your gap. And I feel like we've been trying to pick up the details more than anything. So.
Justin, you were talking about having that confidence back and that strength back and things like that. It seemed like maybe a couple games you'd have a shot and you'd pass it up, or maybe you'd hesitate for a second. Is some of that part of the process too of just getting back to being in games, like not passing up some of those shots and trusting that they're going to go in?
Yeah. Also, a lot of that is sometimes when I catch the ball, I don't know, I feel like I don't catch it right. I feel like I got to catch it a certain way for it to get up. If I catch it the right way, I feel like it's going in every time. So, a lot of it is just getting a feel for it out there. Obviously, that'll come with more reps, more game reps and stuff like that. So, my confidence is going to go up from here.
We haven't spoken with you guys since Kobe passed away. I was just wondering what he means to you guys.
Go ahead.
Kobe's my favorite player of all time. You look at any of my social media accounts, like my Twitter name is EasyE2432. I mean, that's for Shaq and Kobe. And Kobe's been a big inspiration to me. Like, you ever see me shoot like a little mid-range shot fadeaway, that's because of Kobe. Like, I worked on that a lot because of him. And it's just sad to see him go. He was a big inspiration to the game, and he showed how hard you have to work every day, day in and day out.
Yeah, just his mentality, how he brought it every day. Injured, tired, not feeling well. Regardless of, what the circumstances are, you got to bring it. You got to have the right attitude. If you're blessed to live another day and do what you love, take advantage of it. Never take it for granted.
Something that always stood out to me about him was how he would uplift the women's game and was all about women's basketball. And what I've noticed, internet trolls will always drag that down, but people who are in the sport, play, coach, they have a lot of respect for. I was just wondering what that kind of message got to you guys.
Yeah, obviously he helped the WNBA take a big step, and a big leap, obviously, with their salaries increasing and things like that. I think he was definitely a big part of that. He brought a lot of viewers to it, as it should be. It should be equal rights, I feel like, too. The women's game, they have just as much passion and love for the game as we do, and they put just as much time in as we do. So, yeah.
I think that was a great answer.
Thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe Coach said, and they said it on Big Ten Network too, that day you guys went for a walk as a team, and I guess you were in Evanston. Seems like kind of a different kind of team bonding deal to do on a day of a game. I'm just wondering what you guys got out of that, if anything, or what it was like to do that.
We weren't on our phones or anything. We just took a walk to the lake, and I felt like we all connected on a different level. Just being with each other, just taking. I mean, it wasn't a long walk or anything. It was just a walk just to get us some fresh air and just to all feel connected.
Yeah, I feel like it was good because obviously on road trips you usually have the same routine. Get to the hotel, have team dinner. Sometimes we'll go out to a steakhouse or something. Just eat, get back, watch film, go to bed, wake up, eat again. Walk through some stuff. It was good just to take a walk and kind of get a different view of what we usually do. It was good.
Had you guys ever done anything like that before? And I'm wondering just if someone was walking around Northwestern's campus or Evanston, wondering why is the Ohio State basketball team walking en masse around our town right now?
Actually, on that walk, we passed 3 or 4 groups of Buckeyes, yelling "Go Bucks." People were yelling out their cars, OH, and we yelled back IO. So it was cool.
Only other time I could think of us just walking anywhere was when we was about to scrimmage Louisville, and we went to walk to the steak restaurant from the hotel. So that's the last time.
You mentioned it was a change of routine for you guys, that walk. Is that something that helps, when maybe you're going through a tough stretch of games like you guys have to change up the routine? Is that just a way to reset?
I mean, you could say that, but at the same time, we approach each game the same way. We all have our own individual routines pregame. Coaches do, players do. It really just depends how you take it. Some guys don't have routines. It's really just how you grew up and, how you adapt to it.
Yeah. On another note, you guys, last time you guys played Indiana, they scored 31 points off their bench. As 2 guys that aren't starters, how do you stay locked in to a defensive mindset and come off the bench ready to play hard, aggressive, good defense in a game?
Just locking in on the scouting report. You got to pay attention in the huddles of what coach is saying. Days before the games, we have to lock in the scouting report because some of the guys coming off the bench could be better players than the guys that start. It's just how different teams have their routines. So we just got to stay locked in on the scouting report always.
What he said.
Justin, you talked a lot last year about waiting for your turn and being patient and not going at it in practice. How has this year felt different than last year, where you've been some games you play, some games you don't, some games you're getting some shots? How has this felt compared to last year which obviously led up to that Iowa game last year.
Yeah. Obviously, coming in this year was a different approach. You know, I pretty much had to learn how to walk with my left leg again at the beginning of the fall. So, you know, I was more grateful this year just because, you know, you don't know how much you take for granted, you know, just walking with two legs on a daily basis. I remember my first, month, I was on bed rest. You know, I was walking crooked and everything. So it was just a bad time, you know. I put my head in a bad place. But, you know, I was able to have a good group of guys in the locker room. And, you know, I got a lot of good relationships with these guys. So, you know, they helped me, put me in the right position to succeed.
Justin, I'm curious, as a shooter, how many shots do you put up in a day when you're in the gym?
Yeah, it depends. It varies, you know, off days and days before games and stuff. Usually on off days, I try to get up 500 makes. You know, it depends what percent you're shooting at, so roughly 600, 700 shots. It depends how fast I get in it, how much time I got, how I'm feeling, how tired I am. So, yeah, off days, usually about 500 makes. And then pregame routines, probably 100, 200 makes, somewhere in there. You know, just getting a rhythm. I like it.
I remember Tiger, I think, once saying he had a rule about he had to make so many in a row before he would leave the putting green. Do you have anything like that, like a streak you got to hit before you
every
would be
spot.
done?
So I usually go 7 spots around the three-point line and mid-range, and before I go to the next spot, I got to make 2 or 3 in a row. Depends how I'm feeling.
Going back to that game, it seemed like you guys had great ball movement, and they found a way to isolate you wide open a couple times there in the second half to get over the hump. Just what did those plays feel like that your guys were looking for you and you were able to convert them?
Yeah, I felt good. You know, any open look I'm going to take. So, you know, I had 4 or 5 of them that game, and I took them. But, you know, my teammates really do a great job. You know, we got 2 really good point guards, Dwayne and CJ. You know, they played a really fast pace, which I like. You know, getting out in transition and running, getting the, kick-ahead threes, things like that. And especially when they come off ball screens, you know, they're so fast when they come off a ball screen that, you know, they really drag, the whole defense over and it shifts. So I'm on the backside of the court and they find me.
For both of you, start with EJ, just thoughts about Indiana. And obviously you played in the game at Indiana just the second half. I think you got outscored 35-20. Just your recollection, what were they doing maybe in that second half that kind of tipped it in their advantage? And then for Justin as well, what he sees with Indiana.
I feel like they had a home court advantage. They got comfortable, and they're used to playing at that court. That was my first time playing there. Couldn't make a free throw, but I worked on that, so I hope I can make a free throw this time. But I just feel like they blitzed us, and they really came out and played together and played aggressive. And Indiana's a really good basketball team, so we just got to have the same mindset that we have every game, is just go out there and try to play together and do what we can to win. Yeah,
kind of what he said. I felt like they were just, they came out more aggressive than we did, and I felt like they got comfortable kind of fast. That's one thing, playing away in the Big Ten that you got to adjust to. You got to take teams out of their comfort zones, because obviously at home court, they're used to shooting there every day. It's easy to catch a rhythm, so you got to do what you can do and do your best to get teams out of their rhythms.
Just one more. What was it like to see your brother get in last night and play the way that he did?
Yeah, I'm happy for him, man. Obviously, it's been a rough 5 years for him. Michigan State, with all the injuries he's battled, but he's one of the toughest guys I know, so I'm happy for him. I'm glad to see him back out there.